Hollywood has seen many family dramas play out in public, but every once in a while, a story comes along that feels less like celebrity gossip and more like a real life emotional chess match. This is one of those stories. It's about legacy, control, love, and what happens when two powerful families collide under the harsh glare of fame. It all began quietly, almost casually, in a room far removed from red carpets and flashing cameras. At the Wall Street Journal's Invest Live event in West Palm Beach, Florida, billionaire investor Nelson Peltz took the stage. This wasn't a movie premiere or a fashion show. It was a business conference filled with executives, analysts, and industry leaders. And yet, even here, the shadow of celebrity followed him. When asked whether his famous family had been in the press lately, Nelson Peltz smiled and responded with dry humor, saying he hadn't noticed at all. It was a joke, of course, one delivered with the calm confidence of a man who has spent decades navigating powerful rooms. But behind that light moment was a truth everyone in the room already knew. His daughter, Nicola Peltz Beckham, and her husband, Brooklyn Beckham, had been at the center of intense media attention for weeks. Nelson didn't dodge the topic entirely. Instead, he acknowledged it with careful precision. He made it clear that while the subject of press coverage wasn't for discussion at a business event, what mattered most to him was simple and deeply personal. His daughter, he said, is great. His son in law is great. And he looks forward to them having a long and happy marriage together. It was a statement that sounded warm, supportive, and reassuring on the surface. But in the context of everything happening around the Beckham family, it carried far more weight. This wasn't just a proud father talking about his daughter. This was a powerful figure, choosing his words carefully while standing in the middle of a very public family conflict. Nelson Peltz is not new to pressure. As a billionaire businessman and father of 10 children, he has lived most of his life in high stakes environments. When asked what advice he gives his children, his response was blunt, honest, and revealing. He said his advice is to stay the hell out of the press, adding rhetorically how much good being in the press really does. That line landed with a mix of laughter and knowing nods. Because by that point, the damage had already been done. The story was already out there, and it had been put there not by tabloids alone, but by one of the central figures himself. Just weeks earlier, Brooklyn Beckham had taken to Instagram and posted a message that shocked fans around the world. Known for being relatively private compared to his famous parents, Brooklyn's decision to speak openly about his family marked a dramatic shift. In his post, he claimed that he had been controlled by his parents for most of his life. It was a strong statement, one that immediately grabbed attention and sparked intense debate. Brooklyn went further. He said that his parents had been trying endlessly to ruin his relationship since before his wedding, and that the interference had not stopped. According to him, his wife, Nicola, had been consistently disrespected by his family, despite repeated attempts to come together and make peace. These weren't vague frustrations. They were direct accusations aimed at two of the most famous figures in modern pop culture: David Beckham, global football icon, and Victoria Beckham, former Spice Girl turned fashion powerhouse. For years, the Beckhams had been admired as a tight-knit family. Carefully curated social media posts, public appearances, and interviews painted a picture of unity and love. Brooklyn's message cracked that image wide open. Suddenly, the public was seeing a side of the family that had always stayed behind closed doors. What made the situation even more striking was the silence that followed. Publicly, David and Victoria Beckham did not issue an immediate, detailed response addressing Brooklyn's claims. No long statements. No emotional interviews. No social media rebuttals. And in the world of celebrity culture, silence can speak just as loudly as words. This is where Nelson Peltz's comments became especially significant. By publicly affirming his support for Nicola and Brooklyn, he positioned himself as a steady voice in the storm. He didn't criticize the Beckhams. He didn't repeat Brooklyn's accusations. But he also didn't distance himself from them. Instead, he focused on the future, on happiness, and on marriage. For Nicola Peltz Beckham, this moment has been particularly complex. As an actress who grew up in a wealthy but relatively private family, she entered one of the most famous families in the world when she married Brooklyn. From the start, her relationship with the Beckham family was closely watched, scrutinized, and compared against public expectations. Rumors of tension had circulated for years, especially around the couple's wedding. Stories emerged about disagreements over wedding plans, dress designers, and family involvement. At the time, those rumors were dismissed or downplayed. But Brooklyn's Instagram post reframed them, giving them new meaning and emotional context. From Brooklyn's perspective, his message wasn't an attack. It was a release. He framed it as an attempt to reclaim control over his own life and protect his marriage. In a world where he had grown up under constant scrutiny, he seemed to be saying that this was one boundary he could no longer allow to be crossed. Nelson Peltz's remark about staying out of the press now feels almost ironic. Because once a story reaches this level of public interest, staying out of the press becomes nearly impossible. Every silence is analyzed. Every word is dissected. Every appearance becomes a statement, whether intended or not. The absence of a public response from David and Victoria Beckham has led to intense speculation. Some see it as restraint, a deliberate choice to handle family matters privately. Others interpret it as shock or even heartbreak, played out quietly rather than online. What's clear is that this is not a simple disagreement. It's a deeply personal rift unfolding under global attention. Family dynamics become infinitely more complicated when fame is involved. In most families, conflicts stay within four walls. In celebrity families, those walls are transparent. Fans feel invested. Media outlets amplify every development. And the people at the center are left navigating their emotions while millions watch. Nelson Peltz's presence in this story adds another layer. He represents stability, authority, and protection from Nicola's side. His calm, measured comments contrast sharply with the raw emotion of Brooklyn's Instagram post. Together, they paint a picture of a young couple being defended by one family while feeling misunderstood by another. Despite everything, Nelson made it clear that he believes in the marriage. He spoke about Nicola and Brooklyn not as celebrities, but as people. As a father, his priority seemed to be their happiness, not public perception. In a story filled with accusations and silence, that reassurance stood out. Brooklyn and Nicola have continued to present a united front. Public appearances, social media posts, and subtle gestures suggest that whatever is happening behind the scenes, they are committed to each other. In many ways, that unity appears to be at the heart of the conflict. A young man choosing his wife and a family adjusting, or struggling to adjust, to that reality. For David and Victoria Beckham, this moment challenges a legacy they have carefully built over decades. They are not just parents, they are global brands. Every move they make is interpreted not only as personal behavior, but as part of a larger narrative about control, image, and family values. And yet, behind the fame and fortune, this remains a very human story. Parents and children, expectations and independence, love and boundaries. These are universal themes, even when played out on an extraordinary stage. As the dust settles, the biggest question remains unanswered. Will this family find its way back to private reconciliation, or will the distance grow wider with time? Nelson Peltz's hope for a long and happy marriage suggests optimism. Brooklyn's public declaration suggests determination. The Beckham silence suggests something still unfolding. What's certain is that this story is not over. It's evolving quietly, carefully, and emotionally. And as it does, the world will continue watching, not just because these are famous names, but because at its core, this is a story about family, loyalty, and the difficult choices that come with growing up, even when you grow up in the spotlight.